Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought 15 years of marriage could unravel so quietly. No shouting, no slam doors, no dramatic confession. Just a single moment that split my life into before and after. My name is James, and until that night, I believed loyalty still meant something if you showed up every day and did the work. Elizabeth and I met in our mid-20s. She was sharp, elegant without trying, the kind of woman who made rooms feel warmer. I was steady, predictable, the guy who planned ahead. We balanced each other. At least, that's what I told myself for years. We built a life that looked good from the outside. A house in a quiet neighborhood. 2 reliable cars. Routines that felt safe. I handled most of the finances. She handled most of the social planning. We weren't perfect, but we were functional, and I thought that counted. Somewhere along the way, functional replaced connected. It didn't happen overnight. It never does. Conversations became updates. Touch became accidental. Nights turned into parallel routines on opposite ends of the couch. I noticed it, of course, but I told myself marriage wasn't supposed to feel exciting forever. That was a fantasy people chased when they didn't understand commitment. Elizabeth started changing first. New clothes, more time on her phone, longer evenings out with friends I barely knew. When I asked, she'd smile and say she was just finding herself again. I didn't push. I didn't want to be the insecure husband questioning his wife's independence. I believed trust meant giving space. One Thursday afternoon, while I was finishing up work emails, Elizabeth walked past me dressed in a way I hadn't seen in years. Not inappropriate, just intentional. Hair done, makeup precise. That kind of effort that announces itself without asking permission. I asked where she was going. She paused, like she hadn't expected the question, then said casually, "Out. Dinner. With who?" I asked. She shrugged. "A friend." That word landed heavier than it should have. I watched her pick up her purse, check her phone, and head for the door. No kiss. No explanation. The door closed softly behind her. If you've ever felt that quiet shift where something feels wrong, but you can't yet prove it, tap the like button so this story can reach others who've lived that moment too. She didn't come home until after 10. By then, I wasn't angry. I was alert. Elizabeth walked in relaxed, almost lighter than she'd been in months. She kicked off her shoes and asked if I'd eaten. I said yes. We stood there, 2 people sharing space, but not truth. That night, she slept easily. I didn't. The next morning, I checked our shared calendar, a habit from years of coordinating schedules. There was, added recently, labeled simply as dinner. No names, no details. That was when I realized she hadn't tried very hard to hide anything. Or maybe she didn't think she had to. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to be sure. Over the next week, the pattern repeated. Late nights, vague answers, a distance that felt intentional. Then I noticed the restaurant receipt in her car. Candlelit, expensive, not the kind of place you go with a friend, out of convenience. When I finally asked her directly, Elizabeth didn't deny it. She looked tired, almost bored, and said, "It was just dinner. You're overreacting. If you were in James's position, what would you call this? Say it in the comments." That was the moment I understood something important. This wasn't about a single date. It was about permission. She had already decided the rules no longer applied to her, and she expected me to accept that quietly. That night, lying awake beside her, I realized I had spent years proving my commitment to someone who no longer felt obligated to respect it. Type the word respect in the comments if you believe loyalty without respect is meaningless. I didn't make a scene. I didn't raise my voice. I just started thinking clearly for the first time in a long while. And clarity, I would soon learn, is far more dangerous than anger. The next morning, I watched Elizabeth get ready for work like nothing had changed. Same routine, same coffee mug, same casual indifference. That was when I understood the truth. She wasn't confused. She wasn't conflicted. She was comfortable, comfortable assuming I would stay, no matter how little she offered in return. I didn't confront her again. I didn't demand explanations or apologies. Instead, I did something she never expected. I stopped reacting. I stopped asking where she was going. I stopped filling the silence she created. And in that space, something shifted. She noticed. People always do when the safety net disappears. 3 days later, she mentioned another dinner. This time, she didn't bother dressing up as just a friend. She said it plainly. I'm seeing someone. There was no guilt in her voice, only caution, like she was watching for my response. I nodded. I told her I hoped she enjoyed herself. The relief on her face was instant, and that relief told me everything I needed to know. That night, after she left, I sat alone at the kitchen table and reviewed 15 years of shared life with a clarity I had never allowed myself before. The house was mine. The accounts were mostly mine. The stability she leaned on existed because I built it. I realized something important. Commitment doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means knowing when to walk away from it. The next morning, I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. Quietly, professionally. No threats, no warnings, just preparation. By the time Elizabeth came home that evening, I had already made my decision. I told her I wanted a divorce. Calmly, directly. Her reaction wasn't anger. It was shock. She laughed at first, like I was joking. When she realized I wasn't, her confidence cracked. She asked if this was because of one dinner. I told her no. It was because she stopped seeing me as her husband long before she ever went on a date. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might be silently enduring the same kind of betrayal. Sometimes clarity begins with recognition. Over the following weeks, her tone changed. The certainty faded. She asked if we could talk, if we could slow down. I listened without interrupting, then reminded her that she had already chosen distance. I was simply choosing dignity. That was the moment she truly looked stunned. Not because I was leaving, but because I wasn't chasing. Divorce is never easy, even when it's necessary. There were hard conversations, divided assets, quiet nights alone. But there was also something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. No guessing. No waiting. No shrinking myself to maintain someone else's comfort. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that the relationship she risked everything for didn't last. That knowledge didn't bring satisfaction. It brought closure. Because by then, I was no longer measuring my life by her choices. What would you have done differently in James's place? Start a thoughtful discussion in the comments. Different perspectives matter here. 15 years taught me many things. But the most important lesson was this. Love that requires self-erasure isn't love. It's surrender. And no marriage, no matter how long, is worth losing your self-respect. Elizabeth went on a date expecting I would stay silent. What she didn't expect was that silence would turn into resolve. And resolve, once formed, doesn't beg. It moves on. If you found value in this story, like this video, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories that explore truth, boundaries, and the cost of ignoring them.